Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do one last entry here for this go around, and then I'll give this series just a brief break, start working on some other stuff very soon for you. This one has to do with yet another new suggestion, and it involves two of my favorite themes. In this case, a specific location. You know how much I love those, because anytime you have an absolutely specific spot to go to test something out, it just makes it so much more wonderful as opposed to trying to just go to blind places, like in other words trying to find something randomly. And it also involves a curse. Anything involving curses, I love those too, whether it's with a person or inanimate objects such as this location here. It's the idea that this living curse is always out there ready to implement itself, that just makes things so exciting. And it has to do with this. You're looking at it now. It's known as, in this case, the urban legend of Charles Island, and it has to do with not one, not two, but three curses that permeate that land to this very day. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the interesting information associated with this urban legend, the urban legends of Charles Island. So what was, or in this case what are, these continuing legends there? So first, a brief history on Charles Island. You'll have to find it somewhere off the coast of Milford, Connecticut. It's about actually half a mile off the coast there. Beautiful looking island. I mean, look at the pictures here. It's definitely something to visit during, let's say, a crisp, sunshiny summer type day. When you go out there, depending on the time of the day, you can either reach it by boat or you can reach it by walking straight to it. Who knew? Imagine walking up straight to an island. It all has to do with the tide. So on the low tide, there's something there that's called a tombolo, but it's also referred to as a sandbar that becomes exposed. Now keep in mind though, if you follow the trail there, you'll do fine, but you have a small window in order to do so whenever the low tide is available. I think it's somewhere around 2 hours is what I was reading. So if you're planning on going there and accessing the island, then you can do so, but I would recommend going by boat. In this manner, you can actually go there and go at your leisure, as opposed to walking up there, and then you'll have just around a 2 hour time frame. Although if someone is there on a more local side, please let me know. Give me the information if you can, if this is true, or if there's a larger or smaller window available. But yes, that's the low tide. Whenever there's a high tide, then that sandbar is completely gone, and you can again go across it just by using boat. But it catches a lot of people by surprise, the fact that there's a huge amount of wind that comes across that location. So again, be very careful on that. Also, I would double check. I don't know if you can just access it on your own outright, because I think it went through several owners throughout history, and that may actually tie into the urban legend here in a minute. But it went through several owners, but now it's actually owned by the state of Connecticut as part of their Silver Sands State Park, and they use it as a preserve for a lot of the local bird population. So keeping all that in mind, I don't know if you can actually just walk right up there, in quotations, in other words, like actually visit it, or if you can go on very specific designated times, or if you have to go on a tour, whatever was the case. But that is in essence part of the history of the island. Also, as I was just mentioning, there are a lot of owners regarding this island too. Absolutely, there were private owners. In some cases, one owner, he decided to make it his own island, his own permanent residence. That didn't last very long. And then there was another owner who decided to build, I think it was some kind of resort that was on that location too. That didn't last long. There was yet another owner who opened up a religious retreat, and that didn't last long either. So you can see like a theme involving this island. You would think that something like this, so beautiful as is and unique, would have a good amount of business, whatever, in the sense that the owners are trying to get from it, that it would last for a good time. But no, the history seems to point that there seems to be very, very small amounts of ownership up until the state of Connecticut owns it now. How that ties into the urban legend is this, because there may be a curse, three of them, that that create this scenario where you can visit the island, but you have to be very careful what you do there. And it involves this. The most famous of the curses has to do with a Captain William Kidd, who is someone, I guess, who is a pirate, who is still pretty infamous in his name. Not maybe necessarily as some of the other pirates out there, but he was someone that definitely made his mark at that location. He visited Milford, Connecticut sometime around 1699. He was on his way to Boston. And when he did so, he buried certain parts of his treasure in and around that location. Well, lo and behold, he was eventually caught, taken off to England for trial, and then eventually his execution. But while all that was occurring, it began to dawn on people the chance that maybe, just maybe, he buried even a larger portion of his treasure right there, right on Charles Island. And so the notion that this legend started to grow that yes, somewhere there is a huge amount of in this case gold, diamonds, jewelry, anything that you could imagine that our pirates are known for stealing, somewhere there on that island just ready for the plucking. And when that happens, it just grew from there. People started to visit, but it seems like at that very same time they started to, I guess, have these bad things happen to them. I don't know if it was something on the lines of people experiencing trauma, experiencing bad circumstances. I don't think anything actually involving death outright, but it was enough for a curse to start developing for anyone involved trying to go to that island. And the whole idea is this. So this guy, this Captain William Kidd, once he hid all his treasure there on that island, specifically in a giant boulder known as Hog Rock, yes indeed that's his name, Hog Rock, then he gave this treasure a curse, as is apparently something that pirates did back then when they knew there was a good chance they may not be able to get back to that very same treasure. He gave it a curse, and the way it was is he cursed anybody who went to look for his treasure. And it just grew from there, either from actual circumstances or friend of a friend type stuff, people hearing about it, about someone having this bad misfortune and then them telling others about it. But yes, that remains the most popular urban legend to this day on that island. If you go there and you're trying to find this infamous Hog Rock, or just trying to go around certain parts of the island altogether and then trying to find this long lost treasure of this Captain William Kidd, then you will be met with bad misfortune. No word again yet on how bad that stuff gets, but that's the whole idea, that if you do so, you bring about your own misfortune. The second curse that's tied to this island even precedes this, the one involving Captain Kidd. It has to do with a tribe that apparently used to live on that island, or didn't live on that island per se, but used it as a way for some of their, I guess, sacred homes or their sacred relics, whatever was the case. They were known as the Paugussett tribe. They must have been there a long time, long before anyone else, at least on the European settler side. But once everyone came over and then they started to claim a lot of their property, those people, the ones involved in the tribe, decided that as they were leaving, or more likely as they were forced out, they decided to place a curse on that island, because to them it was a sacred home, again, to their relics, to the spirits that belonged there. This curse was the following one: anybody that decides to place any structure on that island will be cursed, and then anyone who tries to live there will not be able to do so. Does that sound familiar? Do you remember all those other examples I was just giving about various people trying to create something on that island, but it wasn't lasting too long, just a couple years at most? Maybe it's tied to this Paugussett tribe and the curse that they settled on there. Are there spirits roaming to that day on the island, actively trying to instill that curse because of this tribe? Who knows? But definitely history seems to point more along those lines. And then finally, the third curse has to do with yet another group of pirates. I don't know exactly who these pirates were, but they were there a little bit after the Captain Kidd was visiting that island as a pirate. In this case, this was around the 18th century, and it involved some people there, although they may have been known as sailors instead of pirates, but depending on the version you're reading. Either way, though, they too went to that island, saw its unique location, realized that this would be a great way to hide all of their to hide all of their stolen treasures, everything that they could there, and then they would obviously come back sometime later to claim it afterward. But they must have realized the same thing, that there was not going to be a chance for them to do so because they met a bad end. What that bad end was, who knows? Maybe it's tied to the previous two curses, which would kind of make some sense. But either way, though, before they saw their final fate, they in turn placed a curse as well to that island and the treasure that they have buried there. Essentially, it was damning anyone who happened to come after their treasure. Can you imagine that? Can an island actually have three curses? Two of them involving treasures, hidden treasures, and then one involving, in this case, anybody trying to occupy it from a living standpoint, like something to settle on. But if there's an island that would have that, it seems to be this Charles Island as well. All of this is very enticing. It does make me interested into visiting it one day, just to see it for its natural beauty, but to also think as you're walking around, in this case, all those trees, going up those tiny hills, maybe even seeing some wildlife. As you're doing so, realize that you have three, not one or two, but three living curses that are circling around that island, making sure that they can claim their curse upon you if you do anything bad. So, but that's it. That's all the information associated with this unique island. By the way, I haven't even touched. Apparently, if you go there too, you may even see some ghosts, some phantom figures, some voices, other stuff that's involving that island too. Who knows? Maybe I'll do another video on that part as well. But at least in this case, it's more along the lines of the urban legends. But if anyone has any more info to share, anything else that stands out, anybody has been there maybe to that Charles Island, that'd be a great experience to place please on the comments below. So alright everybody, thanks again as always, take care.